Jurassic World Dominion is just a few weeks away, so starting today, we're looking back on the entire 29-year-old franchise, once started by Steven Spielberg. Welcome to my review of Jurassic Park. A wealthy entrepreneur secretly creates a theme park featuring living dinosaurs extracted from prehistoric DNA. Before opening day, he invites a team of experts to experience the park, but things soon turn into anything but amusing once security systems shut off and dinosaurs are set loose. But before I probably start today with my review of the legendary Jurassic Park, let me know all your thoughts on it in the comments below. Did you grow up with it? Do you love it? Do you think it's a little bit overrated? Anything and everything down there. And if you like movies and TV, this is the place to be, so consider clicking that subscribe button so you don't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. And this film is legendary. It is an iconic. It is an all-timer for so many reasons. One of the big ones, obviously, is Steven Spielberg, who directs this film in peak form. The film at its core is a cautionary tale about man playing God that deals with these grand sci-fi concepts and tells the story with such interesting, compelling characters that you just love to see in this adventure. In a fascinating blending of genres with adventure and sci-fi and horror sprinkled in, he has this great balance of wondrous and horrifying. He has this great sense of awe throughout that is captured through his direction and a lot of times through his characters as well. But as the film goes on, what was once wonderful, what was once awe-inspiring, starts to reveal the real hidden dangers behind it all. And Spielberg has this great sense on how to present the scope of it all, because he has these great characters played by wonderful actors throughout the film, and he understands the unique perspective that each of them bring to the story. As a cautionary tale that this film is, all these characters are interesting perspectives that bring something new to a discussion. So it's a film that doesn't present a topic of discussion and then just deals with it in a very simplistic manner. It spends the entire film having this really fun adventure with intense action sequences showing us dinosaurs come to life, but also knows what it is actually talking about underneath the surface and uses its time, its story, and its characters to flesh out these opinions, these different perspectives that flesh out these characters in return and make them so interesting, so relatable, and so complex. And I just don't know that there would ever have been a director that could have done as great a job as Spielberg does with this particular story in the way he tells it. The understanding of how exciting and wonderful and awe-inspiring a park with living dinosaurs is, he transmits this sense of childlike wonder in his direction, even through the child characters in this film, but then a sense of reason and complexity that is transmitted through the argument, through the cautionary tale within this story that our characters debate over throughout the film. He also has this great sense of payoff, and every small setup that he has in this film has a small bit of payoff throughout it, and then the bigger the setup is, the longer it takes to pay off, making it all the more satisfying. Every little detail in that first act comes into fruition throughout the rest of the film, and he has this ability, as he sets all of this up in this very wonderful way, almost in the way a child would see it, or in the way, in this case, John Hammond and Alan Grant would see it, he then takes this turn throughout the film and starts to present things in a different perspective, kind of making us, the audience, participate in this discussion, kind of argument for each side and see how we make up our own mind throughout. And so it's a very engaging experience to watch Jurassic Park. It is very much a fun adventure. It has so many exhilarating sequences that whenever I watch this film, to this day, I feel like a little kid again. But then it has such smart storytelling underneath the surface in how he crafts and handles what a story such as this has to say. It shows real imagination, it shows creativity, but also sophistication as a master filmmaker that he has proved himself to be throughout the years, and this is one of his prime examples of it. Another fascinating aspect of the film is the world building, displaying this wondrous island, this fascinating idea for a theme park with all these intricate details, even the presentation that John Hammond is giving to Malcolm and Sattler and Grant and the lawyer there, Gennaro. It's all very wonderful, very childlike. He's very playful with it all. But then you get to the science behind it, the creation of all these dinosaurs that our scientists, the experts, understand. They're intrigued by it. They raise all these interesting questions. We get to see the process of extracting the DNA from the mosquito inside the ambar, mixing it with other animals' DNA, how that eventually creates a living, breathing dinosaur. And it's not the most implausible thing we've heard. The scientist within this movie works in very credible ways, not only to the science that we know nowadays, but particularly to the science that we understood back in 1993. And these characters flesh out those perspectives and add on to the science of the workings of this film. They're experts on this. They understand the science. Not only are they fascinated by it, but they're intrigued about it, the questions that they raise, that they bring to light, how they explain things to one another. What Ian Malcolm doesn't understand as a chaos theorist, Alan Grant understands as an expert on this, and vice versa. And this flashes out their dynamic, but also the characters as just individuals, which is so great to watch, really defining their worldviews and the topics of discussion that the film is going for, where it delivers this fascinating world with incredible spectacle, but also continues to dive deep with the layers underneath the surface that make this film stand the test of time. But obviously, one of the things that all of us love the most about this film is dinosaurs. And this film made us believe dinosaurs could be real. They could be brought to life. Growing up, I was one of those kids that I loved dinosaurs. Dinosaurs were my favorite animals. I wanted dinosaurs to be brought back. So this film was just something out of my wildest dreams. And the mix throughout the film of CGI and practical effects is wonderful, and it holds up so well 29 years later, when we have these big wide shots that show us the park in all its wonders and dinosaurs come to life, really displaying the scope and scale of it all compared to our human characters. That Spielberg always focuses on their perspective and makes sure to present to us, the audience, how different the size the human characters are to the big dinosaurs. And one of the things that really helps in that intensity and in that contrast is that the wide shots, always CGI, always numerous dinosaurs, but once we get close, once we go see the details of it all, it's practical effects. And that's a real selling point here, is that when you have these grand wide shots where the dinosaurs are far away in the background. You don't need a lot of detail, but once you step in close and you can see the creases, the wrinkles, and all the details in their skin, you can almost feel the textures on screen. It is astounding to see not only how well it holds up, but also to keep in mind that they did this in 1992 for the film to come out in 1993. And it's absolutely wonderful and delivers some key moments in the film when the T-Rex is searching through the car and the kids are trying to stay still to hide away, the eye looking around, the detail crunching on the tire, flipping the car around when Grant and the kids are on top of the tree and the Brachiosaurus steps in to eat some leaves off their hands, and even the raptors in the climax of the film as they're running around rummaging through the kitchen. So many incredible moments that would not hold up anywhere near as well if not for the practicality of it all, if not for actual dinosaur animatronics on set with these actors. And speaking of actors, one of the things that really helps in selling the reality of these dinosaurs being there is our characters. Jeff Goldblum, Laura Dern, Sam Neill. What a fantastic trio with great chemistry on screen. But one of the things that helps, like we talked about, is that they're all experts in their different area. They all have something to give to the story. They all have something interesting to bring to the table. But they're also very passionate about this. Particularly Alan Grant, one of my favorite all-time characters, who just absolutely loves dinosaurs. The film presents him as this earned scientist who will take no shits from anyone. He's just very opinionated about this stuff. He's an expert on it. Nobody knows more than him. And that kid that tries to make fun of him and the raptors, oh, you're making fun of dinosaurs? I'm going to scare the shit out of you. And it's a great sequence. But once he gets to Jurassic Park, you have that great moment where he sees the Brachiosauruses for the first time, taking his sunglasses out, turning Laura Dern's head onto the Brachiosaurus, and he basically turns into a kid in a candy shop. And the dinosaurs are the candy for him, the proverbial candy, which is a really nice contrast because in the film he doesn't like kids at all. And seeing the banter between all these characters, particularly Ellie, Sattler, and Alan Grant, as he's trying to get away from the kids, but she keeps pushing the kids onto him, and seeing his growth. Push comes to shove, he's going to protect these kids. He's going to risk his life to protect these kids, and the film finds this very organic manner at separating him with the kids from anyone else. And that brings us back to a little bit of the tension that I talked about that is generated throughout this film, because the early stages of this film, as Dr. Hammond gathers Ellie Sattler, Alan Grant, Ian Malcolm, brings him into the park, has this whole presentation. He's just very enthusiastic about it all. He himself is a very giddy kid, happy to present this incredible thing that he has achieved without taking into account all the dangers that will come in it and how much of it is actually morally, ethically wrong. And he doesn't care. He's just completely oblivious. It goes absolutely over his head. The film finds this interesting way of compelling him, of grounding him in reality, where he has this giddiness about him, this childlike wonder about him that Spielberg features in his direction. But then you get to see that he's doing this kind of for his grandchildren as he brings them in to the park, reinforcing that notion of how oblivious he is to all of this. And Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm, he's one of those characters that shouldn't work as well as he does, but because it's Jeff Goldblum, he has this effortless charm to him, and he brings some very reasonable points against John Hammond that kind of bring Alan Grant himself kind of into perspective, where Alan Grant himself, he wants this to be real. He wants to have a park where he can see dinosaurs living because he loves them so much. But again, it's all these different perspectives that bring the discussion to life. And as the film is setting all this up, all this presentation, all these people arguing points and counterpoints, and then you have Dennis Nedry, who is becoming consumed with greed, much like John Hammond is, and kind of becomes the worst version of John Hammond, trying to sell the secret embryos to the black market, and everything goes wrong because of him. And so it's one of those cases where everything that could go wrong in this film, as it's setting up all these wonderful things, this wonderful park with wonderful dinosaurs for people to have a wonderful time, it goes absolutely wrong, and the film takes this turn for absolute horror as it tears our characters apart, each with their own individual kind of squads. We have the incredible T-Rex sequence in the rain that we talked about, where everything shuts down, and from then on it's just unbridled tension. And one of the things that you notice in this big turn in the film is how John Williams's magnificent score changes. And his score is another one of the key elements that makes this movie work. As the characters come in on the helicopter to Isla Nublar, the score swells up. Again, the scene where Alan Grant takes his sunglasses off, but then the second half of the film, as our characters are running around the park, all of them in different parts, not knowing what the other ones are actually doing, and Williams' score picks up on everything and takes, again, this turn of the blending in of genres that makes it all work so organically in a seemingly effortless way. You have so many great sequences where our characters are in the dark. They don't know if they should go out. When Ellie Sattler goes out and finds Ian Malcolm wounded after the T-Rex shoves him away after he tried to do the right thing to save Grant, to save the kids. You have Nedry trying to get out of the park and being found by the Dilophosaurus, which to me, I've always found that sequence incredibly funny. Perhaps because this is such a scummy, unlikable character, that to have this elongated sequence where you're just building up to see him get his comeuppance, it's extremely satisfying. And the film in general has very funny moments, be it the banter between characters that is so well established, it just feels so natural. Some of the one-liners in here are unforgettable, like when they find the Triceratops and then Ian Malcolm steps onto the pile.
That is one big pile of shit.
Everything just flows really well because it feels like it's such a well-oiled machine working in cohesion with all its elements, the direction, the story, the score, the characters, and it all flows seamlessly. It feels like a lived-in world, and you're seeing this happen at the moment you're watching the film. No matter how many times I've seen it, that's always how it comes across. A very in-the-moment kind of thing. And as you watch these characters in these situations trying to save one another without realizing what one another is doing, you have this sequence where Alan and the kids are trying to make it back to base, and back at base they're trying to reboot the system. So as Alan and the kids are in this fence jumping over, they're turning the systems back on, and you have this incredibly tense moment where Timmy is coming down the fence and eventually Adler just turns it on. And the film is riddled with all these great moments. Another one that is so tense-filled is the clever girl moment, where Muldoon goes and tries to rescue Alan and the kids to find them in the enormity of the park, and the raptors play games with him, which is another thing that the film establishes so well at the beginning, as they're trying to fence out the cages. They're being very careful in how they handle the dinosaurs because they've realized they have this cognition that they keep learning. As the T-Rex tried to escape, she never went to the same fence twice because she realized it was active electrocution whenever she tried to escape. And seeing the film set that up, set everything up, and then pay it all off throughout is so engaging, so satisfying. It's an edge of your seat adventure that never tires of being exhilarating. The film throughout its entire runtime just has this great cadence to it of build-up and payoff, of setting something up, immediately paying it off, but then setting other things up at the same time that will pay off in the long run. And so you're constantly having these moments of release of tension, build-up of tension, release of tension, build-up of tension, like when the kids and Grant finally make it to base, and then we think it's all said and done, all of them are safe, and then the raptors are in there. And now the kids don't have Grant. They have to fend for themselves and try to hide from the raptors, leading to this great sequence that brings the kids and Grant back together as John Hammond has gone to get the car. In steps the T-Rex, taking care of the raptors for our characters as they just dash out of there in a very satisfying moment where now they don't try to be brave to one another, they don't try to get one another out of danger, they all just grab the kids, get out of there, and we have the iconic T-Rex roar with the banner coming down. It's an incredibly satisfying scene, it's an incredibly satisfying moment, even when Grant gets to the car and tells John Hammond that I'm not going to endorse your park, and he himself says, yeah, I'm not doing that either. Again, that humor, that release of tension that just puts a cherry on top of a very nutritious cake. What to say about Jurassic Park that hasn't been said already? It is Steven Spielberg at his creative best. An all-time classic that is equal parts exciting and wondrous and scary and tense, filled with memorable moments, memorable characters, and genre-defining spectacle. And I'm giving Jurassic Park an A+. But those are only my thoughts on Jurassic Park. I want to know what you think of this classic in the comments below. Let me know any and all of your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back very soon with my review for The Lost World and every other movie in the Jurassic Park franchise after that. Remember that if you like this video, you can click on that subscribe button so you don't miss any future conversation on your favorite movies and TV. And a big thank you to my channel members for always supporting this channel. And there's a link in the description in case you want to become one, and I'll see you very soon. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.